Today is May the 6th, 2018, and we're on Sullivan's Island, and I'm interviewing my Aunt Lynda Denberg. Lynda, tell me a little bit about yourself first.
Okay, I'm Lynda Firetag Denberg. I was born in Charleston, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my grandparents and my life. We're sitting on the beach house porch now, which has been the glue to our family. My dad built this house when I was less than 2 years old, and we have been here every summer for 74 years. As soon as I had nieces and nephews, my sisters got married, we all lived here together in the summertime, and it was a wonderful experience. We fought like all sisters do, but it really gave us a meaning of family and what was important in life. My grandparents were Aaron and Ethel Firetag, and they both came from Poland, which was, at that time, it was near Germany. The story is my father came from Poland when he was 12 years old, worked as a peddler, and then brought his family over. But I was able to get the manifest of the ship he came over on, and in actuality, he came with his mother and his sisters and brothers who were born at that time, and their father came over later. Eventually, my grandfather started a furniture store, but his real love was for antiques. And he had upstairs, he had this big house that was over the store. And upstairs, he had antiques, and lots of people from south abroad would come see him to buy antiques.
Now you're talking about Grandpa Joe's father.
Grandpa, the Colonel. The grandfather was the Colonel.
Was it Grandpa
Colonel
Joe's father?
Firetag, yeah. And he became not famous, but he became well known in South Carolina. He was friends of the governor. He was great friends of Fritz Holling. He had pictures taken in New York with, can't remember who the guy, O'Dwyer?
Why was he called the Colonel?
Because he was an honorary colonel in the Confederate Army. The title bestowed on him, not by Fritz Hollings, but by Olin D. Johnson, I think.
Okay.
Right.
But did he ever serve?
No.
It was honorary.
He came over after the Civil War.
Oh, that's funny.
It was just an honorary thing. And he and Ethel lived over their store, and in the backyard there were chickens, and next door was a Zalkin's butcher shop. And I used to go out there and watch them cut the heads off chickens and the meat market, because Zalkin's was a meat market. And next door to his store was the Palace Theater, where they would run Flash Gordon and those serial type movies, and I would go there on Saturdays.
Now, back then, were they black and white movies? Colored movies?
I
Films?
don't remember if they were black and white or colored.
But they were films?
They were films, yeah. There were those serial films.
Yeah.
David says black and white, but I'm not sure.
I'm just curious, yeah.
They were white theaters. They were segregated theaters.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about
Ethel. Ethel was quiet. She, the big fight between Ethel and Bubby, that's my mother's mother, was about the gefilte fish. My mother always said Ethel put sugar in her gefilte fish. And Ethel said she did not put sugar in her gefilte fish. It was just sweet. So we used to have Passover dinners and Yontif dinners at both grandparents' house. There's a story about when I was a little girl that I got so drunk on wine that I was dancing on the table one Passover at the Colonel's house. And Melvin, my uncle, always tells that story.
Tell me about the Colonel and Ethel's children.
Oh,
Grandpa Joe's siblings.
My father's siblings were Helen, who always said she lived close to heaven because this is when she lived in Miami and lived on an upper floor. And then there was my dad. Then there was Sally. Sally was our fancy aunt from New York, whose children we still are very close with. Arlene, Lydia has passed away, and I'm still very, very close with Lydia's daughter, Amy. Patty, who says she's coming to see us all the time, but she does come sometimes. And then Jeffrey, who is alive and doing well, but we really don't see. We saw him for Amy's wedding. That was the only time we've really ever seen Jeffrey.
So was Sally the youngest?
No. After Sally, there was Ruthie. And Ruthie had one son, Harold, who I'll never forget when she brought him to the beach, because everybody came to the beach in the summer. When she brought to the beach in the summer, he was so white. I mean, he was whiter than this cup. And we were so afraid. And when he went to the beach, he was going to get so burned, so she kept him all wrapped up. He was kind of funky.
So did
and he died very young. I mean, as a young adult.
But none of Grandpa Joe's siblings, the girls, lived in Charleston.
No, never.
Not as married. They all moved away. No. But the boys did.
They all. Well, we forgot some people.
Oh, I know we haven't finished.
We hadn't gotten there yet. His sisters left Charleston as soon as they graduated high school, and they all went to New York.
And then tell me about his brothers.
Huh?
Tell me about his brothers.
Then there was Israel, who did live in Charleston, and whose children still live here. And I was very, very close to them when I was between 3 and 8. I remember spending the night at their house a lot, and it was freezing in their house. They were all real big people, and when I would sleep there, I would freeze. But I loved his family.
Maybe that was the very first indication that you liked to be in cold weather.
His wife was Phyllis, and she came from California, and she was a beautiful, beautiful, sweet lady, and did not have the easiest life in the world, and died not very young, but in her 40s of breast cancer. The first person I ever knew with cancer. After that, there was Melvin, who everybody in Charleston knew. He was a great dude. He was fun, and he talked more than any of us. And when he died, he ended up leaving all of his nieces and nephews money, which we never thought he had any.
Did Melvin never got married, then?
No, Melvin never got
never
married.
had grandchildren.
There were stories about Melvin, but and they were true, but we loved Melvin. Everybody loved Melvin. Then my mom's family, they were not quite as interesting.
Where did Bubby and her husband come from?
Wait, they were very, very religious, steady people. They came from Poland near Russia. And the story was with my grandmother is that she came to Charleston with her family, the Solomons. And her brother was Sam Solomon, who owned a very large retail dry goods store in Charleston. And her nephews all became very, very religious, but very charitable, well-known people. They had a lot of money, and they were wonderful. They were always family, and they never let you forget. Whenever they would see you, they'd go, "Hi, Cuz." and that made you feel so good. But my grandmother's story was she came over with her family, and then her husband, Horny, was still in the Russian army. And he went to the Tsar and told the Tsar that his wife was in Charleston and that he had to go see her. I don't know whether she was having a baby or not. I don't think so. And he said, I'll go just for a month, and then I'll come back. I promise I'll come back. And the Tsar let him go. Well, that's how the story goes.
But he never went back.
But he never went back. And who knows if that actually...
You know, that's who I'm named after.
Horny?
Horny.
Yeah, Heidi. Anyway, he had a wholesale dry goods store on Meeting where all the other wholesale dry goods stores were. And they had 4 children. They had Sophie, who was the oldest, who my dad was actually supposed to marry. Then my mother, then Sylvia, who was the sweetest person that ever lived, and then my Uncle Moses, who was the nicest person there ever was.
And very
religious. Very religious. Anyway, the story about my father was supposed to marry Sophie, but when he met Sophie, he fell in love with my mother and ended up marrying my mother, who maybe that's why Sophie was bitter all her life.
Who was the great aunt that would sew the sweaters? Was it
Helen.
Helen? So that was
I don't know whether I told you my dad's story. I was told you, he said he came over as a peddler and then brought his father over. Mm-hmm. But in actuality, I have the manifesto of the ship he came over on, and he came over with his mother. I did tell you.
Yeah.
And his other siblings.
So that was Helen that made all the sweaters.
Helen made beautiful, beautiful crocheted and knit sweaters and blankets. They were all in wild colors.
I still have one.
I still have some too of Jody's. Mm-hmm. She was a nice, nice lady. She had a hard life. She worked very hard all of her life.
So tell me about Grandpa Joe's store.
Okay, then when my dad, after he finished peddling and got his father set up in business, time was right, and he opened an Army-Navy store on King Street, 218 King Street, diagonal from the Riviera Theater. And he was pretty successful at that. It was wartime, and he worked very hard, and every penny he had, he put away, and he bought property. He bought real estate downtown. And so he ended up doing very well for himself. When he died, my mother wanted to sell everything because she didn't want to be responsible, and she did. She was fine. She had no problems financially. But my brother-in-laws, Melton Kligman and Meyer Hyman, always teased her about selling 218 King Street for $52,000, when it sold was probably 10 years after that for $500,000, and now is worth about $3 million.
Wow.
But I told them if they were so smart, they should have bought it. They both could have afforded to buy it.
It's funny. Tell me, how did Grandpa Joe pass away?
Oh,
because he was young.
Yes. My father had angina and a bad heart from a young age, even in his 30s. I don't know how old he was when I was born. He may have been older than 30s. He had angina and very bad heart. He would never lift suitcases. He really took care of himself. He was never let himself get heavy. He went on these weird diets, soybean diets, to keep himself in health. He loved, what do you call that meat?
Flanken?
Flanken, but he never would eat it except once a year because of his heart. And I was in college, and my mom was running the store. She was working at the store, and he was homesick with Annie. And he actually was having heart attacks. And when they got him to the hospital, they said he'd been having multiple heart attacks, and they didn't say they didn't think he'd make it. But one morning he woke up and he told the nurse, he had a private nurse, and he told her, he said, "Go for breakfast. I'll be okay." And she said, "I can't leave now, Mr. Joe. I'm going to go home in an hour." He said, "No, I want you to go for breakfast." And I don't know whether she went or not, but he died. And
in the hospital?
he was in the hospital. And I know they called my mom, and they must have called Phyllis, because I think Maya met my mom at the hospital.
So he was young.
Right.
He was like,
He
in
was
his
56.
56.
He was very young.
Right.
And the next week, they opened a cardiac ICU or an ICU at Roper Hospital. And the next month, they did their first heart surgery,
Wow.
bypass surgery. I don't know if it was bypass then, but it was some heart. I think it was bypass. It was.
Wow.
Now let's go. We're talking about Annie. Annie was the very, very important part of our lives, all of our lives. She took care of us. She came to work for my mother when Phyllis was born. She and my mother were about the same age. And she was with us until she died at almost 100. She didn't work for us, but she was a part of our life. She'd come to the beach. She'd sometimes cook fried chicken for us. We tried to pay her and take care. We did pay her and take care of her until she died.
Did she live with y'all, or she just came in
No,
every
she
day?
didn't live with us in town. She came in at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning and took a bus home at 3. In the summertime, we had a little house out here, a cute little house with just a bedroom and a bathroom, where Annie lived in the summertime. And she did live with us in the summer.
Did she do most of the cooking, or did Grandma cook?
Oh, no. Annie did all the cooking. Annie did everything. When I went to school, they asked my mom's name. I thought it was Annie. But she took me to Hampton Park every day when I was real little, and she taught me to ride a bike.
What street did you live on back then?
Back then, we lived on Dunham Avenue, which is right across the Citadel. Prior to that, we lived on St. Philip Street, where all the other Jewish people lived. And for a short time, when the house on Dunham was being built, we lived on St. Margaret Street, and an apartment where a lot of Jewish people lived.
Where did you go to school when you lived there?
I went to James Simmons Elementary. I went to Rivers High. I loved both. My best friend then became Eve Mendelson, and she and I used to walk home from school every day together through Hampton Park.
Where'd Mom go to school? My mom.
My first friend actually was Sandra Levine, who lived with us for a year when her mother was taking care of her mother, and Sandra lived with us. And we're still best friends, and so is Eve and I are still best friends. Your mom went to Memminger, and Phyllis was in the first class of Rivers, but your mom graduated from Memminger. Let's see, something else. Oh, and Sandra's mother, Lilla, was my mother's best friend growing up. So we all have pretty lifelong friends. Going back to Annie.
Well, tell me about how Annie was involved in your Jewish holidays.
Well, she cooked everything.
Right. And did y'all have big family gatherings?
And she served. She didn't serve. Annie would never serve, but she would put everything on the table. She never served because I think she would have found that demeaning. And also, she went home at 3 o'clock. So my dad always said, my mother did not know how to cook, but she sure knew how to burn. Because he would always tell her, "Don't warm up my dinner. I'll do it when I come home." Because he came home at 10 o'clock at night most times because of the sailors and collecting rent. And I used to love to go collect rent with him.
So not only did he have a retail store, but he owned apartments?
Yeah.
So he was in real estate.
He was right. And they were not very nice properties, but they paid the rent. Another about Annie, I just loved Annie, and I have a little story to tell you. When I was living in Atlanta, one Mother's Day, it's going to be Mother's Day next week. One Mother's Day, Jeffrey was out of town with the Hawks. My kids were running this way and that way, and the only person I got a Mother's Day card from that year was Annie. And I called her crying. I was so happy, and I did love her, really love her. She took care of me, she taught me, she did not let me in the kitchen, but she would, when I'd call her, kind of help me with the recipe. She was just wonderful. And Annie had 3 children also who lived in New York, who all eventually came and lived with her, except one who died young, and she took care of Rita's child. And Annie died at, like I said, almost 100. She had a beautiful funeral at AME Church on Calhoun Street. I was unable to come, which was one of the greatest regrets of my life.
I was there. I took Mom and Dad.
Right, and Helene, my sister, spoke for me, and they say it was beautiful. And when I went to Spoleto that next summer, there was a program there, and I asked some people, I said, "Do y'all know Annie Gilliard?" And they got so excited. They all knew Miss Annie and loved her.
I think it was the first funeral that I've ever been to where the casket was open and Annie had all her beautiful clothes on.
And hat.
Beautiful. She just looked like she was going to church on Easter Sunday.
She was dressed all in white. I know that because Helene told me. And she did look beautiful. And Annie and my mother, well, they didn't share clothes, but Annie loved my mother's clothes. My mother dressed very nicely. And, you know, everything she gave to Annie.
How did your mom pass away?
My mom passed away similar to my dad, but not quite as quick. My mom had just made plans to move out of my grandmother's, and she hired a sitter for my grandmother. All those years went by, and my grandmother would not have help, and my mother stayed with her. She had her own apartment. She lived in her apartment, but at 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, she went to my grandmother's, and that's where she slept. It was Hanukkah. She wanted to go to a Hanukkah party at the center, and she had just hired a woman to stay with my grandmother. And that night, she actually, my Aunt Helen was in town, and she's called my Aunt Helen, and she said, "I'm not going to take you out to lunch tomorrow because I really had a bad pain today when I was driving, and I think I should go to the doctor." Well, that night when she went home, she had a massive heart attack, and she was able to call 911. She crawled to the door, but she did not make it out of the hospital. She lived for maybe 48 hours, but on machines. And I felt so bad because I promised her I'd never, ever let her, be on machines, because I was a nurse, and I was feeling very bad, but the doctor was very, very good. He said, "You're not doing this, I'm doing this, and by tomorrow, your mom will have, decided."
Mm-hmm.
And
how old was
she
Grandma?
didn't make it. She was exactly 70. Well, not exactly. It was in December, and she'd be 70 in May.
Okay. She was 60.
She had breast cancer at 60 and beat it. Never got that again, but suffered a lot.
But she always had a burning sensation.
Yeah.
And
She had one of the first mammograms ever done. That's how they found it. And she had massive surgery and was, she had a mastectomy, and she was uncomfortable for the next 10 years, but cancer was gone. And subsequently, her sister has had breast cancer and no problem, she's survived. I've had breast cancer, I've survived. My sister Phyllis has breast cancer, she survived. We did have one cousin, Sophie's daughter, who got breast cancer at a much younger age, in her 40s, who didn't survive.
So tell me about Grandma's activities.
Oh my gosh. My mother played cards almost every day and a couple of nights a week. She played canasta, she played bridge, she played mahjong, and she played poker.
Poker.
Oh, and Spite Malice and Kaluki. Kaluki is a game you only need 3 people to play. It's like canasta. And so a group of women found out about it, and on Saturdays or on Sundays, when Florence Mendelssohn, my friend Eve's mother, didn't work, she had a Kaluki game every Sunday, and my mother was sometimes a part of that game. Or if she and her friends couldn't find 4, they'd play Kaluki. Her other activities were walking. She walked every day, at least 3 miles every day. And when she got older, she and Phyllis used to meet at the Battery and walk on the Battery and walk all around Church Street and Meeting Street and Trad Street. And she was a great walker.
And she loved walking the beach.
There's only one other thing that she did, and it was bad.
Uh-oh.
She smoked cigarettes.
Uh-oh.
Till practically the day she died.
Well, that was pretty common back then.
It was very common back
Right.
then, but of course the doctor said that's what killed her. And it most probably did. Her daughters, Helene, Phyllis, and I, all smoked cigarettes for a while, but we stopped, in our 40s. My mom was great. She was very tolerant. She was very easygoing. She didn't suffer guilt like most Jewish people do. Her friends really weren't very nice to her sometimes. They'd make fun of her or do different things, and she just washed it off. I mean, only one time I ever saw her hurt, and that was on a trip she took, and some other ladies from Charleston were there, and they kind of ignored her. And that hurt her a lot. And I've never been able to forgive those ladies. They're both dead now, too.
Tell me about her walking on the beach, because she loved to walk.
Well, we lived on the beach every summer in this house, and every day, in the summertime, my whole family, not my whole family, but my sisters and my mother and whoever was around, and I would walk to the rocks every day.
What was so special about the rocks?
It was just a stopping point, and it was a mile. It was a mile to the rocks and a mile back. Mm-hmm. So it was just a place. It became our place.
Our place.
And I know after my husband Jeffrey died, the first place that we went to, the Slovises and my cousins and my nieces and nephews, was to the rocks and had a little memorial for Jeffrey. I also went with my best friends, Eve and David, and we had a memorial for Jeffrey. But I remember the one with the Slovises because there were a lot of us. I remember Adam was there and lots of people. Now where are we?
So tell me about your sisters.
Oh, my sisters. My sisters were beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Helene was 12 years older than me, and when I was born, she became my mother because I attracted boys. So she used to take me every place she went. And and I did think she was my mother. And then later in life, when I went to Carolina, people in Columbia thought I was her daughter. One time I got in trouble, and I went into this man's house to call somebody, and he said to me, "You Helene Klingman's daughter?" And I went, "No, but I'm her sister." And Melton was his lawyer, needless to say. So my little mishap did not go unnoticed.
That's funny.
Helene was extremely popular. She was sweetheart of AZA. She had hundreds of boyfriends. And she had the nicest but the most unbecoming group of friends. They were dirt ugly. And
in Charleston?
But they were wonderful. They were Rita and Betty Shulk and another girl named Annie. Anyway, so Helene was the Queen of Charleston. Phyllis was born 2 years later. She's 10 years older than I am. And Phyllis thought she was the ugly duckling. She absolutely was adorable. But she thought she was the ugly duckling. And she grew up with a group of friends that were all beauty queens. I mean, really. Harriet Spanier, Frida Sokol, Sandra, but a lot of other people. And they were gorgeous. What's her name? Repan. They were all really beautiful. She thought she was the ugly duckling. She definitely was not. We look at pictures of her. She was adorable. So there was always a lot.
Maybe it was that middle child.
Right. There was always
situation.
A lot of tension in later years. Not in the last years, but in later years between Helene and Phyllis. Phyllis married Maya Hyman from Charleston, a Citadel cadet and an Army man who owned a dry goods business. Helene married Melton, the most wonderful man in the world, who was a lawyer, and he adored her. And he spoiled her rotten. Phyllis's husband was very, very different. He was an Army sergeant, and Phyllis, I think, was, I know she was, we all know, she was very jealous of Helene's marriage. And Melton could do no wrong, but actually he couldn't do any wrong. Phyllis had, did I tell you about Helene's children yet?
Yeah.
Phyllis, let's go to Phyllis's. Phyllis had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, all who grew up to be wonderful. I mean, one of her sons and one of her daughters is like golden. They are the best things that ever could be. And I think they both made an oath to themselves they would definitely have a marriage different than their parents, because they really are wonderful. Helene had 5 children. She had 4 girls and a boy. And actually it was Lisa, Mindy, Heidi, Kayla, and then the King, Joe. And Kayla, they were going to name Hope. And at the last minute, they changed it to Kayla because they said everybody's going to say hoping for a boy, which they would have. So Kayla is Kayla Hope. Helene's children are all very, very successful. They're extremely productive. They can do anything, and they do anything. They're hard workers. They're all married. Very, very nice people. Heidi and David are sitting here now. Heidi met David as she was leaving Charleston to go work in Delaware, and they never parted. She was in a relationship with someone else before that just was not going to be right for her. So
We won't go there.
But David, she met and they never parted, and they have a wonderful marriage. They travel, they do everything. All right. Lisa married her college boyfriend John Harvey, who is a lawyer, and very he's like Milton. He's got to speak at everything, and he's the family demagogue. No, that's the wrong word.
Spokesperson?
He's spokesperson. Then there's Mindy. She married her high school boyfriend, and they were married about, what, 10, 15 years?
He had 2 children.
And they, 12 years. They had 2 wonderful children, and they ended up splitting, and now Mindy is married to David Odell, who's a great guy. And they have a child, Aspen. So Mindy and David have 3 children who they treat exactly alike. Maybe, yeah. Aspen's a little bit of a princess. But her older children, Melissa and Rachel, are wonderful parents, wonderful workers. They're great. Aspen is graduating college next weekend. Let's see. Heidi has 3 children. She has Adam, who is married to Shauna, and he went to a lot of school. He's very highly educated, and he works for an accounting firm.
No, he's an engineer.
Then there's Morgan, who got married last week, who married a darling boy, Gordon, who we love. And then there's Rebecca. Rebecca, the cutest baby that ever lived. And then, but she's fine. She's doing fine. She's working for David, and she's happy, and that's all that matters.
Caleb.
Not going to go there. I'm not going to talk about all the other children.
Well, there's Kayla, then there's Joey. So we've got a lot of family.
There's Kayla,
lots of family.
right? There's Kayla in Florida, who's married to Ken, beautiful Ken, and she has 2 children, Kendall and Carly. Joey, the prince, has the most wonderful son in the world. His name is Lewis, and he's very, very special.
Okay, well, you don't have to embellish on my family. Talk about your family.
Oh, I have 2 children. I was married to a sports writer, which was very exciting. We had a fun life. We traveled a lot. We did a lot, and was able to go to wonderful parties and things through his work. I have 2 children. Jeffrey died early. He died at 64, I believe, of a brain tumor. My children, one of them is far away. He lives in Eugene, Oregon, and doesn't like to travel, so we don't get to see each other that often. And I'm not a talker on the phone, but we have a great relationship. And that's Matt. Matt's an environmentalist. He works for the city of Eugene. Then I have my oldest child is Jody. Jody was the cutest baby in the world. She was not spoiled, but I just doted on her. I thought she was the best thing since white bread. Jody now lives in Charleston, about 10 minutes away from me in Mount Pleasant, and we're beginning to have a very, very nice relationship. We were mother and daughter for a long time. So, each having their own problems. But she's a paralegal. She does very well, and owns a precious little house right close to me. And she's now getting interested in politics, which is really interested. CNBC and her are best friends.
That's funny.
Now, let's go back to Europe a little bit. My grandparents both came from Europe, and I called them King Street Grandpa and St. Philip Street Grandpa, because that's where they lived and worked. Well, not where they lived. King Street Grandpa, as I said, came from Germany, Poland, but close to Germany. And I told you about it, how they came over, and right, I've already told you that. But they were so different. My King Street grandpa was very, very outgoing, and I used to love to go to his store and sit on his lap.
And that's the Colonel.
That's the Colonel. And he would always give me silver dollars and little things. My St. Philip Street grandfather was very religious, very sedate, a wonderful, sweet man. And what I remember about him the most is he had a porch outside of his house, and on Saturday afternoon, he and I would sit out on the porch, and he loved Hershey bars. And we'd eat Hershey bars, and he'd tell me stories about Johnny the monkey and in the tree in his yard. He had a 3-story house also, but he had tenants below and above. He rented the top and the bottom out. And in those days, still some people don't turn on lights, they don't do a lot of things on Shabbos. So he had what was called a Shabbos guy, who would come down and turn on the lights for us, turn off the lights, turn on the stove. Usually people didn't cook on Shabbos, they just made something in like a crock pot and left it. I don't remember about my King Street grandpa, the Colonel. I don't think they were quite as religious, and I don't remember any of those types of traditions in their house.
So I know you like to travel. You and Jeffrey traveled.
Oh,
and I know you traveled a lot with Mom and Dad.
Right, I was going to say.
Tell me about some of your trips.
Jeffrey and I were very, very lucky. Jeffrey was off the month of September almost every year. And we would travel. He had airline points and Marriott points, so that would basically pay for our vacations. And we traveled extensively. We went to China, Asia, all over Europe, and really traveled well together, except he walked me to death. Jeffrey would say, well, we can walk, it's only 5 blocks, and then it would end up being 5 miles. And we traveled a lot with Helene and Melton, who traveled with their friends, Faye and Arnold and Margie and Juicy, because they also had a Marriott reward system. So they traveled many of the same places that we did, and then we also traveled a lot with Helene and Melton alone. And in fact, one time we even went with Jeffrey's father and his wife. But we always had such a good time. We really did. And Helene and Melton were lots of fun. And Jeffrey and I ate a lot. And Helene and Melton shared everything. So
that was a highlight, meals.
Right.
It was a real big highlight for Jeffrey. I knew Jeffrey loved to eat.
So after the first trip together, we decided we would definitely do separate bills, because Jeffrey and I we wanted to order everything on the menu, and they wanted to share. So after we established that, no problems.
What was your favorite trip? Maybe you
I
don't
have to think about it.
You might not
I've had so many.
Yeah.
I do remember. Oh, my favorite trip with your parents definitely was to Maine. Right. We had a great time. We stayed in bed and breakfasts along the way. It was just wonderful. And we had so much fun. Another great trip we had with your mom and dad was to California, where we went to Hearst Castle and all along San Francisco. We started in LA, and we went, all along the Big Sur. And the whole time we traveled, I was screaming, because Jeffrey's a wild driver. I'm yelling, slow down. Wet and slippery on curves. And all Helene did was set her hair because we were staying in a lot of nice places. And she set her hair so when we walked in, she would look beautiful. And I'll never forget, we went to Pebble Beach Country Club for lunch, and we walked in and she looked beautiful. And we came back out, she put her hair back up in curlers because we were going to stay at the Madonna Inn. And when we got to the Madonna Inn, it was the funniest thing in the world. It's this motel that every room is decorated differently, and it's really like a dump, and it looks like it's for the lowest class people in the world, but it's not. I mean, it's a very well-known place. And but we were laughing because she had had her hair set all day to go to this fancy hotel.
That's the fun. That sounds like Mom.
Right.
And I know you love to shop and go to galleries and go to festivals.
Helene and I were real shoppers. We both loved to shop. And we would, the only thing is Helene was very slow when it came to shopping. So we would kind of shop.
She was looking for the deals.
Right. We'd kind of shop at our own pace. But we shopped, we bought. What was the other thing you said besides shopping?
Eating, shopping, traveling.
Eating, we loved restaurants.
Yeah. So you had really a wonderful life. You really traveled the world
we
with
both
Jeffrey
had,
and my mom and Dad.
Helene and I both had a wonderful life. I mean, I've got nothing but gratitude to God and to my family for allowing me to have this wonderful life. My family taught me values that I didn't realize until I got older, that they are the right values. And you know, I've never been religious, I've never been observant, but I do have a tremendous spirituality.
Have you been to Israel?
Oh,
tell me about your trip to Israel.
I've been to Israel 2 or 3 times for different events because I have a niece and a nephew who live in Israel, and they've had many weddings, bar mitzvahs. Helene and I have been, and Phyllis have been to lots of their events together. First trip I went to Israel was with my cousin Myrna Slovis. And Myrna is very timid. And we went together, and I loved it because she didn't eat anything. She didn't eat eggplant, she didn't eat lamb, she didn't eat this. I ate all her food. Then, by the end of the trip, she was getting a lot different. She would try things. Now she's a pretty good eater. She eats most everything. I mean, she didn't eat tomatoes. She didn't eat anything.
But it was a great trip.
It was a great trip, and I learned a lot. We went with a rabbi from Chattanooga. My next trip was for one of Jolie's children's bar mitzvahs. They, of course, are very, very religious. So it was a very nice affair, but it's kind of sedate. Unlike Josh's children's, who were wild, they had bar mitzvahs, and they had so much fun. They were so great. He usually had them at different resorts. And Helene and I had a great time in Phyllis. We really did.
Those are great memories.
The great memories.
So jumping. Go ahead, finish your
something else that popped out. I don't know. We just had good times traveling. It was something I can't.
We'll come back to if you think about it.
Right.
But jump back to the present. How did our weeks with the Slovises start? I mean.
Oh, I'll tell you.
I can't even remember
the Slovises are my Aunt Sylvia, my mother's sister's children. And Sylvia was a Slovis. And every summer, Aunt Sylvia came down with her 3 children, Nita, Norman, and Myrna. And I remember Norman and I slept in the same bed. In that middle room where all the kids slept, at one time in the middle room, we'd have at least 4 children sleeping. We had 2 double beds and at least 4 children. And even to the time that my children, when Matt and Jody were children, we had 4 to a bed. Because we had Joey, and was probably, I don't know who else.
But now,
Jolie,
but now all
Jody
the
and Jolie.
Slovises rent their
Now,
homes.
now that the Slovis, once the Slovis's children got boyfriends, they had to start renting their own houses. So now, 1 week every summer, they come down and we spend the week together, and it's just wonderful. We play cards, we do everything. We've slowed down a lot. Norman and Sylvia and Myrna and Irv, they still have camp. They ride bikes in the morning, they walk all day, they do this, they do that. I'm a little bit more, don't go to the beach as much anymore, don't play cards as much anymore, but I still have a great time with them.
And we always
have
Shabbat dinner.
Oh, we always have Shabbat dinner.
So
we have Shabbat dinner every year with at least 40 people. And Aunt Therese and Eli, Phyllis's son, they have Shabbat dinner every week with, it's slowed down now, but it used to be about 20, at least 20 people.
But on our beach weeks, we would always do Shabbat dinner either at our beach house or at Eli's house.
Right. And Eli has a big house, so we do Shabbat dinner at his house now rather than here.
We did it here last year.
Right.
But we're going to do back to Eli's house this coming year.
Okay, good.
So tell me about your big celebration.
Oh, and I just had my 75th birthday, and it was wonderful. I had a 70th birthday party that was a total surprise. Jody and my nieces planned it, and it was an absolute surprise. I didn't know a thing about it until my son, Matt, came walking out the front door. This year I had a smaller party that I gave, and it was only about 35 people, and it was strictly family and 4 close friends. It was beautiful, and I just loved it. It was just what I wanted it to be. It was delicious, it was fun, it was beautiful, but it wasn't over the top.
With all the people you love.
With all the people I love. Things.
So, several years ago on my birthday, my sisters and I started traveling on a catamaran.
Right.
And then we got you involved in the catamaran.
Right. Oh, I loved our catamaran trips.
We thought that would just be so much fun to be with you. So we have this special bond. So tell us about your catamaran
Oh my
travel.
God, my nieces went on a catamaran trip, and they called me. Actually, I called Heidi because I had looked into something in Charleston that was basically the same thing. And she says, wait, don't do anything. And she said, I'm going on a catamaran trip next week. Just don't do anything. Well, I went back down to Meeting and Market, and I told the guy, I've got to back out. I'm not doing this. I hadn't given him money yet. So I said, I have to wait. So Heidi called me at the end of that trip. She said, you are going to love this. It's exactly what you were talking about. We're going to share it. You, Mindy, myself, that was it. Mm-hmm. You, Mindy, myself. And we'll have a great time. I said, fabulous, I'm in. So for 4 years, we went on the most fabulous trip on the island, more fun than anybody could ever have, and especially being with my 2 nieces, it made me feel wonderful because they wanted me to be there, and we really had a great time.
And then Lisa and Kayla also came.
Lisa and Kayla, I sold Lisa one, and then Kayla, I don't remember how, but we ended up on one trip with all of us.
Several trips with all of us.
Right. And David always came, and David Odell always came. And John never went. He's too big. He would not have been comfortable on the ship. And now Ken goes and loves it. When they rebought, I decided not to rebuy and let them go as sisters and brothers. Because I was really getting too old. It was really getting difficult for me to get from the boat to the dinghy and from the boat to climb up the dock. And I was getting a little scared. So I figured this is their opportunity. Now they are still going every year as the four sisters, and Joey is going with them on this next trip. And I think Helene helped y'all buy, yeah. Helene ended up buying this last group of trips for them so they could all be together. Helene also bought the beach house, which is fabulous because it was going to be very, very complicated. So this way, she owns it, her children have it. My children really were not interested. Phyllis's children really were not interested. They had their own. And so we sold the beach house to Helene, and her girls are taking care of it, and it's wonderful. I don't have to worry about every little nail that's sticking out and every little, which reminds me, did we ever get the nail fixed on the bunk beds upstairs? No, we took the bunk beds down.
We took care of it.
Okay.
All good.
Right. So it's a fabulous situation now. They're allowing me to live here. I pay rent, and now I'm living in the whole house. I was living here with Helene the last 4 years, and Helene had just kind of lost her lust for life. And it was very frustrating because I always planned to spend my last years with Helene, and we were best friends. We did everything together. But once she lost Melton, and once Melton got Alzheimer's, she changed. She grieved from 2 years before he died until the day she died from Melton. And but she lived here, and it was great because she was where she wanted to be, and being here made her happy. And I remember at Melton's funeral, I promised him that I would do anything to make, everything to help make Helene happy. I didn't do the best job, but we were together, and we were in this house. And now Heidi and David and Lisa and Jordan and all of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren will hopefully be here for hundreds of years.
So Lynda, so tell me, because now we're almost at the end of our interview.
Okay.
Tell me, is there anything that you would like to leave to say, your legacy of how you want to be remembered?
Yeah. I definitely think family is the most important thing you can have. Family and health. And if you've got family, and you believe in God, you've got all the support you will ever need. The other legacy I would like to leave is be responsible, do what you have to do even though you don't like it. I lived for my freedom. The one thing that was very important to me was my freedom, that I was able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And I didn't want to be tied to anything. And I know that's wrong because you have family, and I'm tied to my family, but it's not the same thing. So my freedom was always very important to me, and thank God I've had the most wonderful life in the world because of it. And just be there for your family. You're gonna need family. You need some support. I just can't imagine people that don't have sisters and brothers and just being alone. So what else do I want people to remember? I want people to remember I was fun. I like to do a lot of things. I think that's real important, that you enjoy life.
You are
I
fun.
think it's very important that
and you stay so busy.
Right. I think it's also important that you are financially independent. I worked all my life, and I worked because I wanted to be financially independent. I'm not rich, but I'll tell you what, I have a wonderful, wonderful life and do whatever I want. And that, in part, is thanks to my parents, too. And I hope that I'll be able to do some of that for my children.
And you will.
But enjoy life. I'm so lucky that I got from my mom, I don't worry. I didn't realize I don't worry, but I don't worry. So,
Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful interview and a wonderful legacy and beautiful words to live by. And I would come around and give you a hug and a kiss, but I'm still in my pajamas, and
well, so am I.
I know, but you look beautiful with your lipstick on, and you're prepared. And thank you so much for giving us this time.
Well, this was all impromptu, not prepared.
Well, we thought about it.
Right, I thought about it.
And we talked about it, and this is something that was important to me to do.
I love my family, and I don't hesitate to tell anybody. I mean, you and David have been wonderful to me since your mother died, and you don't know how much I appreciate it. I mean, it's, it makes you, and also security. I mean, right.
All right. Thank you, Lynda. We love you.
I love,